Hello and welcome to Talent Talks. My name is David Allison. These webinars and podcasts provide an insight into the changing world of work. They're a conversation with those responsible for recruiting into companies large and small, as well as apprentices and graduates, to hear what it's really like. We're covering a wide range of occupations, industries, regions of the country to explore some of the many changes that are happening around us today, as well as the even bigger changes which are on the horizon. Not only the challenges brought about by the pandemic, but also the transformation to working patterns and the changing need for skills brought about by the huge growth in automation. And today we're looking at apprenticeships from a different perspective. So my guests are Matt Rawlins and Carla from Kaplan, UK. And unlike some of the employers we've talked to in this series, Kaplan may not be a name you're familiar with, but they provide the apprenticeship training and CPD for many large organisations in accountancy, finance and the world of digital. And of course, apprenticeships are slightly more complicated than either university or other entry-level roles. It requires a relationship between employers, the registered training provider, and the individual, or the apprentice. And we're going to explore all of that in a bit more detail in a few minutes. But first of all, let's do some introductions. So Matt, you first. I know that your background is in auditing. I see a fantastic photo of an RLA lifeboat behind you. What was it that drew you into the world of apprenticeships and led you to your current role as Director of Sales?
So it actually stems back to when I left school, I guess. For whatever reason, I decided that I didn't want to go to university. I wanted to go to the world of work, and I applied for some jobs as a plumber, and I applied for some jobs as an accountant, and I ended up getting a job as an accountant. And at the time, apprenticeships weren't around, so unfortunately, it wasn't funded through an apprenticeship scheme, but I was fortunate enough to get a job with a company that supported me. So they paid for my training. So I did the training alongside the work and built up the skills in the workplace as you would do with an apprenticeship. And since then I moved into the training field, started as a lecturer, and slowly bounced around Kaplan to my current position where now I'm responsible for telling people how great of an organisation sort of Kaplan is, but also how good apprenticeships are, and how accountancy and IT can take you into different areas outside of the norm. So I'm an accountant, but I'm not an accountant, if that makes sense. I'm no longer practicing, but it's got me to where I am today.
Cool. We'll come back to a lot of those things you've just introduced us to, Matt. That's brilliant. Carla, how about you? Because you're one of the army of tutors that actually kind of make the whole thing work. You're the one that delivers the training to the apprentices.
Yes, I am. So I just started with Kaplan recently as a business analyst tutor, which is actually a little bit of a deviation from where I started my professional career. I started actually as an English teacher. I'm originally from Brazil. And I used to be an English teacher there. I came to England, but being someone like a foreigner who teaches English is a little bit awkward. So I ended up going into business and working in admin jobs, and ended up working with project management, which overlaps with business analysis as well. And from there, I had the chance of putting my teaching experience with my business experience all together, and now I am a business analysis tutor. I've done qualifications to do so, and it's a great opportunity to work with apprentices, really, because when you think about what an apprenticeship provides, and I can tell you from a different worldview as well, from someone who comes from a different country. It's nice to see that, the UK has this program and this approach to okay, let's allow people to learn while they work, and it's fantastic. We do have something similar in Brazil, but it's not as developed and it's not as focused on. And I just thought it was great, and it's great to be part of this. And yeah, I think that's it.
It's great to hear that different perspective, because I think those of us that work very closely in the sector, we spend a lot of time criticising the flaws we see. So thank you very much indeed. It's really good to hear. And actually, Matt, that gives us a nice lead into the next question, which, if you're a parent making decisions or supporting your child, if you're a careers advisor giving advice, things like universities are really easy to understand. You have UCAS, you have league tables, you know where you're going, off you go. Not quite like that in apprenticeship. So maybe you could give us a quick primer on apprenticeships and how they work?
Of course. So, I think that's it. And whether it's at 16 or whether it's 18 after A levels, I think the decision from a parent from a carer is really difficult to know. Well, when is an apprenticeship the right route, and when is university or further college? And I use my own example of not knowing what to do, plumbing or accountancy. Actually, it turned out well in the end, but if I'd have done that a couple of years earlier, it perhaps wouldn't have done. So again, going back to my career, I could have perhaps had that decision at 16, or maybe I'm going to leave here and get an apprenticeship straight away. And I'm very glad that I didn't do it at that point, and I made the decision to do A levels to take me through, because you've got something to fall back on. And I see that very same thing with apprenticeships. Actually, at the age of 18 or 16, if you know I want to be an accountant, if you know that you want to do a certain career and that's where you're going to head, then it makes sense to move into apprenticeships at that early stage. But if you're unsure, or actually maybe you just want to experience life a little bit more and learn to live on your own a little bit more, then that's really, I feel, what university is able to deliver that apprenticeships perhaps doesn't. It's that life experience, living with somebody else, learning to live on your own, and doing that before you have to learn getting a job. Because if you're doing it at the same time, you're getting the job and you're doing your apprenticeship at the same time, then it can be challenging. Having said that, the great thing about today's support that we've got from the government is actually you're probably not making the decision of apprenticeship or university. The decision you're actually making is apprenticeship now, or university and then an apprenticeship. Because actually, a lot of it, and certainly in finance, you've got a graduate route in, and they will be doing apprenticeships. So you're either going to be going to university and then going on to apprenticeship, or you're going to be starting apprenticeship straight away.
It's an interesting one, isn't it? It often strikes me that people present it as being that kind of choice of either technical or university, or either apprenticeship or university. And actually, those aren't actually valid choices, are they? These days, the system is far more integrated.
Definitely, and I've often, I've always been given advice around finance and careers in finance and how do you get into finance. And my advice to actually anybody who thinks, actually, no, I'm not ready for an apprenticeship now, but I know I want a career in accountancy, I know I want a career in finance. My advice would be, don't do accountancy at university. My advice would be, do something that brings you those wider skills. Do something like philosophy. We've had people from history backgrounds that give you that wider experience that you can then bring to the accountancy world. Our apprenticeship programs are very good. We'll teach you the skills and behaviours and the knowledge of being an accountant, and actually use that time to grow your knowledge and to grow your experience, so that if accountancy isn't right for you, you've got something else that you can fall back on.
And I think accountancy is probably one of the kind of the leading edge areas of apprenticeships, and certainly for a number of years. For me, it's always struck me as being probably the best way in if you know that's what you want to do, because it does get you there quickly without the debt, and you get professional qualifications, which is what really counts when you get into that world.
Without a doubt, and I can only look at myself when I say that. So at the age of 21, I had qualified as an accountant with the ACCA. I had moved to Kaplan, and I was actually a lecturer at the age of 20. Well, yeah, at the age of 21, it was a month before my first, my 22nd birthday that I started teaching, and I'm teaching graduates. I'm teaching 24, 25-year-olds that have gone to university and chose a slightly different route.
Yeah, it was interesting. As an engineer myself, a lot of my colleagues went off to go and become auditors for some of the big firms at the time. So it's very different. And Carla, the world of kind of information systems analytics, that's one where we're seeing it evolve really quickly when it comes to apprenticeships, I think.
Sorry, say again.
The world of analytics and data programs particularly, that's one where it's really moving quickly now, I think, in the world of apprenticeship.
Yes, it is. I think that's the digital side of things. Well, it makes sense, doesn't it, that it's growing so fast. If we see the world that we're living in at the moment, especially with the challenges that we're facing, I think it's even pushing more people towards digital. And the digital side of things it's got a variety of different standards that people can choose. From infrastructure technicians, I think they changed the standard slightly. Now it's got a slightly different name, but it's infrastructure technicians and data analysis and business analysis, which is slightly different. I can get into the details, but I won't yet. And you've got things like software developer and software tester, and DevOps engineers, cyber security engineers. It's amazing, you know. And I do think that, you know, Kaplan did really well in starting offering these kinds of apprenticeships, because if you think about the clients that they have, you know, people like big banks and finance, what is it that they want? They want someone to deal with the digital sides of things, someone to, you know, do software for them, or to, you know, deal with their infrastructure, or to deal with their data, deal with their change programs, which is what I'm, you know, with what I work with, which is business analysis. It's all about change and transformation projects and things like that. So I think it's really valuable, and I do think that we need to encourage more people, and sorry for the comment there, even more girls, to go into these and actually, you know, pursue a digital career. I think it's very valuable.
And it is interesting. I think one of the issues we often have with analytics is it's presented as a very kind of male, spreadsheet-orientated kind of career, but actually it's all about people, problem-solving, patterns, and so on, isn't it?
Yes, it is. When it comes to, well, business analysis and data analysis, they do overlap to a certain extent. It's all about understanding the business and understanding how to move businesses forward and making decisions and you know, predicting, or trying to make predictions based on the data that you have and the information that you have. But yes, it seems like the whole world of IT, up to even now, it's very male dominated, and I find it brilliant when women decide to, you know, get into it and start working with things like data analysis and business analysis. I do think that data analysis, you see a little bit more women, but things like software and infrastructure is a little bit more difficult. And I am one of those who, I'm a big advocate. I'm like, yes, go girls, we can do this.
I think one of the other things that we're seeing is obviously those skills are going across many different sectors now. So whereas originally you used to go work for one of the kind of the big IT organisations if that's where you wanted to go, but now it seems to me that whether it's retail or sport or whatever else, all of those sectors now have digital at the heart of what they do.
Yes, they do actually. Well, to be honest, a lot of what we do is based, I don't think organizations nowadays can operate if they don't have a digital side to it. They need to consider their network, their infrastructure, the hardware that they use, the software that they use. So it's not only IT nowadays. More and more organizations are choosing to do it themselves as well, rather than outsource. So they need the skills. They need people who can do that. And apprenticeships are brilliant for that, because a lot of people, when they fall into IT, they simply land a job, especially in data analysis and business analysis. Things like software is a little bit more specific, so you may have already a little bit of a background, but a lot of people land these jobs and they don't have any formal qualifications, and then suddenly they have the opportunity to do an apprenticeship and actually study and see the theory of things, what we call the knowledge, but also be able to apply that in terms of skills and develop their skills as well. So I think it's great.
Yeah, that comes across. So Matt, back to you. One of the challenges that we pick up is the lack of understanding of what an apprenticeship actually is. So we all understand university, we understand Freshers Week, you join the clubs and off you go. If a young person joins a Kaplan apprenticeship, what is their experience?
So, I think that is a very good question, and what an apprenticeship tries to do is combine the knowledge that you would get through university with that world experience of being in a workplace and doing a job and actually understanding how the real world works. And that's exactly what an apprenticeship does. It marries the two up, and it ensures that there is almost this three-way agreement between the apprentice, so the pupil who's looking to progress their career, their training provider, such as Kaplan, and the employer. And between the three of us, we sign an agreement at the start that says we're going to support this individual student. The pupil the apprentice is going to work towards their career. They're going to have to do some studying in the evenings and weekends, although they will be given some time off during the workplace. They're going to have to study. They're going to have to work hard in order to get their qualifications. The employer is saying, yeah, we're going to give you those experiences. We're going to help you apply the knowledge that you learn with your training provider in the workplace. And we're also going to give you 20% of your time to train towards that. And then obviously the training provider, Kaplan, we're there to give you that core knowledge. We're there to make sure that you're going through, you're being supported by your employer, and you're getting through your exams. So what's the experience? Well, I can only go back on my own experience, and again, I didn't do it as an apprenticeship, but as near as possible. And my only experience is that actually it was a little bit going into the deep end, but at the same time, I didn't find it overwhelming. I was at college during the day sometimes, on day release. I was studying in the evenings. I even took a couple of weeks off where I had money, which was nice, and I went into the uni tour of all my mates at university, and I drove around for 2 weeks going to all of their unis and catching up with them. But the only difference is I could afford the drinks, and they were on the £1 shots of snake bite or whatever it is, and I got to drink some nice.
And I think it's an interesting one, isn't it? Because it is such a different relationship in terms of with education. Because I kind of cast my mind back to, I've taught in both HE and in apprenticeships, and in the world of universities, that lecture theatre with 200 people in front of you, it's pretty daunting on both sides of it. But actually, apprentices can get an awful lot of very personalised coaching and support. And Carla, I know that's part of your role, isn't it?
Yes, it is as well. Yes, as well as being a tutor, I'm what we call a talent coach. So what we do is we provide support to the apprenticeship on a one-to-one basis, so that instead of simply being one person, as you say, in a lecture room, they get more personalised approach. What apprentices will have to do at the end of their apprenticeship is go through Endpoint Assessment, which is their final assessment component of the apprenticeship. And in order for them to achieve, once they get there, I'll be there to help them, to make sure that they are meeting the criteria, that they know what they're doing, that they actually produce good pieces of work, because it's all about providing evidence that you are learning. You can't simply go and watch and, okay, what have you learned? I just turned up and, the lecturer was talking about something. I appreciate that you will have essays and you will have assignments that you have to do, but at least in that case, in the case of apprentices, I'll be there to support them and to guide them through, to check what they're doing, as I said, on a more personalised, or offering a more personalised experience as well.
So apprenticeships, then, they're definitely not the easy option, but it also sounds like there's quite a lot of support there to help you be successful if you choose that route.
Yes, there is. There is a lot of support, especially if you are my learner. Sorry. I would imagine that they'll all get support.
There'll be lots of requests, Carla, coming in for being one of your learners.
Sorry.
It's also worth adding there, though, that you also got the support from the employer as well. Quite often, your line manager has gone through that same experience, and so not only do you have the support of your tutor, your talent coach, but you've got the support.
And we quite often hear stories of kind of groups of apprentices from employers getting together, so it may not be quite the same as the university experience. As you said earlier, Matt, we've actually got money, so you can go out and do these things together, and the social life can be positive too.
Definitely, and I'm still friends with the people that I studied with. So yeah, you study with a group of people and you go through a cohort together. So for 3 years, I studied as you would do at university with a group of people. But yeah, we just didn't live together.
Exactly. So kind of change subjects a little bit, and looking forward 5 or 10 years, I mean, the skills landscape is changing. You obviously are very lucky. You get to talk to lots of different employers now all the time about kind of their changing skills needs. Getting the crystal ball out, where do you think we're going in terms of skills? What are the skills that you would be recommending to kind of your kids and others if they want to be successful in the future?
Sorry, my internet cut off a little bit there, so I only caught the end of the question there. I believe you were asking if we were sort of 10 years down the line, what skills would...
Yeah, what are the skills that employers are increasingly looking for? Where's the future of the skills agenda, as it were? Is it shifting as quickly as some people are making out with things like the fourth industrial revolution?
I think it's an interesting concept because I think we've moved quite far without realising how far we've moved already. And there's lots of things that have been the key skills that we still haven't properly developed. So take Microsoft Excel, for example. Microsoft Excel has been around for years, but it is still a vital skill that a lot of people need in their workplace. So yes, we're going to see things become more digital. Yes, these analytical skills, these data skills are going to be more vital, but they're going to be more vital in generic roles. Take any role, for example. Take within my team, a salesperson. In their team, they've got a number of people, and the people that really thrive, the people that can take that data, analyse that data, pull out a useful contact list, and then push that out, and then contact them in the old school, pick up a phone and give them a call and try and get in touch with them. So yes, there are skills that are going to be needed, and there's going to be loads of new job roles created in 10 years' time that we don't even know the titles of, because it's going to be something wacky and new. But it's also the development of those existing roles. You're never not going to need accountants, but the accountant's role is going to be very different. And will they have to be using more technology and software programs to assist them in analysing and forecasting and advising? Without a doubt.
Carla, what's your take on it?
Yes, I agree with what Matt said, and I do think as well that it is a case of being able to make use of the technology that we have in place. But not only that as well, I do think that nowadays, with the overdose of information that we get, critical thinking is one of those things that comes. Decision making, problem solving, because truly what a lot of people think is that technology will solve the problems for them, but technology is just a tool. You need to know how to use it, and if you don't, it won't do the work for you. So yes, Excel is an example. Great, I can input numbers in a spreadsheet. What can I do with it? It doesn't solve any problems for me. So I would say that it's already been, but I think it's something that we need more and more, is the reliance that we have on technology needs to come with critical thinking, with problem solving, and with understanding which tools are better for us, which tools actually help us do the work that we do. I always talk about that. It's one of the things that I always talk when I talk about business analysis as well. I always say, look, you have loads of models that you can use. Some of them will do the work better than others. You just need to be able to think about which ones work better for you, which ones you're going to apply. Yeah, so I think that's it.
And if I can just add on to that as well, I think that is one of the great things about an apprenticeship. Now, I'm not saying that if you do an apprenticeship in accountancy that you're necessarily going to end up being an accountant, but what you will do is you'll develop those work skills and you'll develop those behaviours that means that actually you can move into a number of different fields. Over the years, I've had students who qualified as an accountant leave. One set up his own brewery. Another one, she heads up a group of beauty salons, and because of the knowledge and expertise and skills that they've got throughout their apprenticeship, they felt that actually they can take this and go somewhere else. So I think, and I did comment on it earlier, sometimes apprenticeships can close doors. I think they open up a lot of doors because they are in themselves something you can fall back on. Okay, you might not use the knowledge, but the skills and behaviours, that's going to set you up for life.
And certainly in accountancy, it's a great way of learning the language of business so that you can understand almost any business, and that sets you up no matter which direction you want to go in.
Yeah, and that's it. And I would always advocate an accounting background, even though I don't use it. But it certainly wouldn't. I wouldn't be where I am without it.
Cool. So, Matt, if people want to find out more about Kaplan and the programs that you offer, where should they go to find out more?
Of course, so best place to go would be to kaplan.co.uk, and on there you'll be able to find out about our accountancy, finance, data and IT programs. Of course, more than happy for people to reach out and get in touch with me as well, and so you'll find me on LinkedIn somewhere, I imagine, yeah, really we should be pretty much easy to get in contact with, and for those careers advisors out there, if you want a Kaplan representative, if you want a recruitment advisor to come and support you in presentations, then we're more than happy to do that. We really want to get out and support young people in the community in terms of getting into apprenticeships or not, and just making the right decision.
That's great, and then we'll obviously put links to that on the website, although I should obviously point out that other training providers are available. Matt, Carla, thank you so much indeed for your time today. It's been really interesting to hear about apprenticeships from your perspective and understand a little bit about the world of accountancy, IT, analytics, and as well as Kaplan, so thank you so much. Next time, we will be moving in a completely different direction, and we're going to be talking to Coca-Cola. Now, Coca-Cola is far more than just the red can we see on the shelves. They're behind a load of other big brands, as well as having to consider manufacturing, considering distribution and sales as well. So do join me next time when we'll find out a bit more about the red can.